Hi everybody, I'm Miles Brown. Welcome to the National Basketball Association headquarters in New York City. Today, Discovery Education and Junior MBA are here behind the scenes to talk about the MBA and how math is used in basketball careers. And I'm here with Kiki Vandeweghe. He is the Executive Vice President of Basketball Operations for the NBA. He was also a player, GM, and coach for the NBA. He is also 6 feet 8 inches tall. Hi Kiki.
Hey Miles.
Today we're going to learn a lot about how math and basketball are connected. How are the NBA and the WNBA working with Discovery Education to work on that?
Well, the NBA and the WNBA have formed a partnership with Discovery Education to show kids about mathematics and teach the love of mathematics and show how mathematics is really behind everything we do in basketball and how you can really enjoy the game of basketball and know mathematics at the same time.
Sports analysts and statisticians are always trying to find correlations between the statistics. Maybe rebounds lead to assists. Maybe more steals lead to more points. If you find a correlation, you can use it to make predictions. How can correlations be helpful to a coach?
Can you tell us where you would use math in your career? Because I know you're a player, coach, and GM.
Mathematics really underlies everything we do in basketball. Whether you're a player and you're trying to decide if you want to take a three-point shot or drive to the basket, which is the better percentage chance of scoring, or you're a coach and want to play a certain player over another player, math tells you who's going to be better on the court in that particular matchup. Or if you're a general manager trying to decide what player you want on your team and you look at his statistics. So math and statistics and formulas, all those underlie everything that we do in basketball.
Now, I know a lot of kids watching, they know they want to work for maybe the NBA and WNBA one day. Can you tell them a lot about how they would use math in this situation?
Absolutely. Well, every single decision that you make, whether you're working in the NBA or the WNBA or even the junior NBA, you have to use math. And so we use a lot of data. We use a lot of math formulas to decide what we're going to do next. And so whether it's a rule change or how you schedule games or anything like that, we use math to decide and come up with a great solution.
Can you give us an example of one time where you had to use math to figure out a decision that you're about to make?
Oh boy, well that's every decision. But really what you try to do when you're trying, let's go to rule changes, okay? So when you're trying to decide whether you want to make a rule change in the NBA, and that's what my department does, is we decide on the rules and the rule changes. So we look at the statistics of the game and decide what players are doing, what trends that are happening, and we try to make a decision and make a rule change where the game will be fair for everybody. The players will have not a competitive advantage one way or the other, and also our fans will enjoy our game more. It's almost like a way to look into the future. Math gives you kind of a periscope into the future. If I do this, the numbers will do this. And so understanding what the numbers say gives you an eye towards what you should do and the decision you should make.
Cool. Well, now we're headed off to meet some more people who work with math in the NBA, and you mind if we check back with you later?
Of course, but only if you do your math.
Did you know that there are 1,230 basketball games in a season? Do you know who organizes that? Well, we're here with Hal Meng, and he's the one who does that. Hello, Hal.
Hey, Miles, what's going on?
So tell me about your job. I know you're the Director of Basketball Strategy for the NBA.
Yep.
What does that mean?
So I would kind of think of it as I'm a basketball scientist, if you will. My job and the people in our group, we're supposed to improve and innovate the game of basketball so that fans like yourself enjoy watching the game, the players are healthy and they get enough rest, and that our competition is fair and as competitively balanced as possible. So all that means is I get to have the fun job of tinkering with the game and doing everything we can to make the game better. So I'll give you a couple examples. Anything that has to do with rule changes that involve us analyzing the game to see if we can improve it by making the flow better, by making the length better, by making it just generally more exciting. And we use a lot of math, not only in this, and we'll talk about scheduling, obviously, as you mentioned. There's a lot of math that goes into our job. So from rule changes, it's looking at running statistical models to look at what the impact of one rule change might be on how players perform, how teams perform, and how balanced our league overall is.
Can you give us an example of one of the ways that a rule change can affect a season?
Yeah, sure. So one great example is, I'm sure you've heard of Hack-a-Shack, right?
Yeah.
Where teams intentionally foul a poor free throw shooter so that they theoretically would miss a free throw and the other team would get the ball back. And we decided, after talking to a lot of fans and running a lot of analysis, that it wasn't necessarily the best thing for our game. So what we did was we changed the rule so that when you do an intentional foul on an opposing team, not only do you get to shoot the free throws, you also get the ball back as well. And so what we saw was we were able to eliminate over 70% of those instances. So now when you watch a game, and you tell me whether you like it or not, but you would see fewer teams intentionally foul and more sort of free-flowing basketball where you get to see the highlight dunks, the three-point shots, and actually teams playing defense as opposed to everyone standing around and shooting a free throw.
That makes more sense.
And then other things that we do, we also care about the integrity of the game. So we do a lot of stats around how our officiating crew performs, how they make calls, and whether they're accurate or not. And of course, you got to the 1,230 game schedule, which is a lot of fun. It's sort of like putting it together a massive puzzle, and there's a lot of analysis that goes on behind it, and we can get into that as much as you want.
That's cool. So what goes into, like, how long does it normally take to schedule one whole season?
Yeah, so it used to be two very smart people at the league, and they would more or less sit in a room and put piece by piece together the entire schedule. And 1,230 games is a lot of games, and it would take them close to, I would say, 6-7 months. It was their day-to-day job. So you can imagine a lot of thinking goes into that, and they had a lot of years of experience. And so we thought, in today's world where we have iPhones and all sorts of very cool technology, I guess iPhone's a little bit old, but you get what I'm trying to say, we decided why not build a computer to be able to factor in all the considerations we care about, from the basketball side of things to making sure that players are rested, that they're not playing back-to-back games or 4 games in 5 nights, they're traveling efficiently when they're going on the road, and business considerations where we want to make sure that teams have the opportunity to sell tickets to their fans on weekend nights where you and your family can go and watch LeBron or Steph come play. And also, we want to make sure that the best games, the ones that you guys want to watch, are on TV on Christmas Day, on Martin Luther King Day, and so that we can engage your fans as much as possible. We can run a schedule that takes about a day or two, and we can look at it, we can analyze it, and that takes a little bit of time, but over the course of the season, we're looking at 300 or 400, 500 schedules until we finally pick the best one.
Wow. Can you give us an example of one of the factors that you consider when you're trying to build a schedule?
Yeah, great question, Miles. Absolutely. So if you think about our system, it's sort of a robot or a machine that doesn't know anything. And we as humans have to teach it what's good in a schedule and what's bad in a schedule. The way we do that is we write these sentences out and we call them constraints, or things that we're trying to prevent. So a good example is if you're the computer, make sure you don't schedule a game where the home team's arena is not available. Meaning, let's say Miley Cyrus or Lady Gaga was having a concert at Staples Center, so we can't have the Lakers playing the same night. It's a little bit weird. So we would then put a penalty score to that constraint, meaning if the computer violated that penalty, we would add 100 points or 500 or 1,000 or whatever we make it. And whatever we make that score represents how important it is to us when we create the schedule. So it's a little bit weird, but the lower the score, the better, because that means if the computer goes and finds us a schedule by placing all these games that has a score of 0, that means it didn't violate anything that we didn't want,
right,
which is great. And then a schedule with a high score means that we probably didn't do our jobs very well. So one of the metrics, or what we call metrics, meaning how we measure certain things, is this concept called fresh, tired, and even. And it's very important because we highly value player safety and health. And every time two teams play, we want to make sure that they're on even footing. So let's do an easy example, okay? So Miles, did you go to work yesterday?
No.
Good, I'm glad you didn't. You shouldn't be. I had to work. So in this imaginary scenario where you and I played a basketball game, okay, because you were well rested and didn't work, and I was tired, we call you fresh. So let's write this on the board. So Miles, you were fresh. And it's good to be fresh. And you get a +1.
Okay.
Positive is good. I, on the other hand, was tired. Because I wasn't rested and you were. And so therefore, I got a -1. Okay? So let's say you and I played a 5-game season. So let's say the next game, we both had to work the previous night. Okay, so we're both tired, but because we're the same, we get the same score. So we both get 0.
Right.
Okay? And let's say the next night, I'm rested and you're not. So you get a -1,
Right.
and I get a +1. And let's say because I'm making up the rules, I was fresh for the next 2 games. So I get a +1, a +1, and you get a -1 and a -1. Now, through the full season, why don't you do the math for us?
Okay. So we have +1 plus 0 is still +1. Then we have -1, which is back at 0. Then -1 is -1, and then minus that is -2.
Great.
So my score would be -2.
Exactly. And I'll do mine as well. So I start with a -1, plus 0 is -1, plus 1, I'm back at 0,
Right.
plus 1, I'm at 1, and plus 1, I'm at 2. So I'm at +2. So what does that mean? Well, unfortunately for you, Miles, that means I was more rested than you because I had a positive number and you had a negative number. Our goal is to make sure that all 30 teams get close to 0 as possible across all 82 games that they play, because that means all our players are equally as rested or equally as tired when a certain game occurs.
Well, thank you, Hal, for doing this.
Yeah.
I know it helped me a lot because I know how you schedule the season. So thank you for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Miles, and maybe one day you can come work at the league office and take over my job.
All right. So Hal taught us how we use math to schedule games and make sure everything is right for the players. Now we're going to see somebody who uses math to make sure the fans have a good time too. I'm here with Doris Dave, who is the Senior Vice President of Customer Data Strategy for the NBA. Thank you for being here, Doris.
Thanks, Miles. I'm thrilled to be here with
Thank
you.
So, I know you really like math. Math is my favorite subject in school, too.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so passionate about kids like you being in math. I have a niece and 2 nephews, and I'm so excited about them pursuing math and all the great things that it can do. I'm especially excited for girls because I think that the sky's the limit in terms of girls being excited about math and the opportunities that it can afford them when they decide about careers. And I really count myself lucky. My mom happened to be a math teacher and a computer science major. And she definitely stayed up late nights with me doing math equations and helping me really persevere through not being afraid of maybe not having the right answer all the time. And one of the things I'm so passionate about with being here at the NBA is that we've got some really amazing, fierce women who work here. And we're just really excited and passionate about bringing women into the sports field and helping them have really successful careers.
That's so cool. So tell us a little about what you do.
So I am new to the NBA, but basically what I do is I take all of this great data that we have on our fans and we use it to try to give them better experiences, whether that's before the game, during the game, or after the game.
Can you give us an example of how you use math and data to help fans have a better experience of the NBA?
Definitely. So we have a lot of data, as you can imagine, on each of our fans. And what we do is we mine that information. So we might ask our fans to tell us who their favorite team is, where they live, who their favorite player is, what their favorite color is.
Right.
And we use all of that information to give them a much more personalized and relevant experience. So one of the most recent tests that we tried was we sent an email about our League Pass product, which is our video product that allows you to watch games on your mobile device. And we tested two populations. One population where we talked about the game that was upcoming and watching different camera views of the game and some of the players that were going to be featured. But then we took the other population and we talked to them through the lens of their favorite teams. So like you, Miles, we knew that a particular fan was passionate about the Cleveland Cavaliers. So we made the email communication all about the Cleveland Cavaliers, the imagery, the subject line, the way we talked to you. And what we found in the US was that the population where we talked about League Pass through their favorite team performed so much better than the others. About 50% more of those people actually opened the email and actually went on to click through the email and buy League Pass, which means that our targeting and using that data really worked.
Yeah.
The most interesting part about it, though, is how individual math can be sometimes. So we also tried that same test in some of the markets outside the US, but we didn't see the same results when we talked about a particular team. However, when we talk about an international player, so say you happen to live in Latvia, Kristaps Porzingis is all the rage in Latvia, as you know.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
So when we talked to fans there using Kristaps and using his image and talking about his plays and how many rebounds he scored last night and things like that, we saw a significant lift in that same response rate. So rather than talking about the teams, it was more about talking about Kristaps, the player. The other thing we do, which is really awesome, is we'll use some of those communication channels to actually ask the fan what they want to see more of or less of. And we've had fans, some as young as 10, 11, 12 years old, actually write in and tell us some of the things that they like. They want to have more top 10 plays. They want to have more highlights from last night's game. So we can really use the voice of the fan to really capture not just their minds but their hearts in terms of the different opportunities that we can give them to consume the NBA game.
I'm a big NBA fan, so what would you ask me?
I would want to know a couple things. I definitely want to know where you live. I'd want to know your favorite team. As somebody that I know lives in California but is a Cleveland Cavaliers fan, I would want to let you know when the Cavs are coming to your hometown to play.
Yes.
And then I have to figure out how to find you. And I'm assuming you're not sitting in front of the television all day. Am I right, Miles? Even though you're on TV?
No.
So I could probably find you on Instagram or Snapchat, perhaps. Yeah. So I would want to make sure that when you're on Snapchat, as an example, that I pop a message to you letting you know or reminding you to remember to watch the game tonight because your favorite team happens to be in your hometown.
Well, thank you for being here, Doris. Well, so far we've talked to some really cool people behind the scenes in the NBA. Now let's talk to somebody whose job is in front of thousands of people, and we're going to go to Brooklyn to meet him. Welcome to the Madison Square Boys and Girls Club here in Brooklyn. I'm here with Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, who's a shooting guard and small forward for the Brooklyn Nets. Thank you, Rondé.
Thanks for having me, Miles.
So I know the NBA and math work together when you're playing on the court. How do you use math to size up your competition?
Well, it's interesting you asked that because we use math what we call per 36, and it's pretty much about per 36 minutes each game, how do you rate amongst all the other players, and we go about points, rebounds, assists, and for the most part, I'm in top 10 of pretty much all of those. And I feel it's great to have, to size up your opponents and to know what they do well, what you do well. It kind of helps you in terms of going into the game with a great mindset and feeling comfortable.
So when you're using per 36, how do you look at stats that you want to improve on the court, and how do you use it to make sure you get better?
Oh, that's great. That's a great question to ask. Numbers are differentiated on how you perform throughout that game, and sometimes you may not score the same amount in one game as you did in another. So you kind of gotta, weigh it out through multiple games and then get your average throughout those multiple games. And then once you look at it off the court, you see those numbers, watch film, and see what you can improve on. You can implement that on the court and see where your spots are and how you feel comfortable at improving your per 36.
All right, so now we're going to bring a math problem from Discovery Education's math textbook to life. You ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, so we're going to give Rondé 10 shots, and then we're going to calculate his points per shot stat. Ready?
Let's do this.
All right. Let's look at the numbers. Rondé attempted 10 shots and he made 9. Out of all the ones he made, 7 were 2 points and 2 were 3 points. So what's his point per shot stat?
All right, so I scored a total of 20 points on the 10 shots I attempted. That means my points per shot is 20 divided by 10, or 2 points per shot.
Wow, that's awesome. Is that normal for a game?
Well, I wish I could say it is, but you know, when guys like LeBron and Russell Westbrook are guarding you, it's not that easy.
Okay, so now let's look at Rondé's real stats on Math Textbook. This gives you up-to-date stats on every player in the NBA and the WNBA. You can enter formulas, compare numbers, and analyze the stats, just like an NBA analyst. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome. Thank you for having us, Rondé.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and you know, anytime.
All right. Well, NBA teams have analysts who collect data, just like we did. We're gonna head over to Madison Square Garden to meet one of them now. It just feels so crazy to be in Madison Square Garden when the whole arena is empty. It just feels like, it just looks so big.
Buddy?
Hi, I'm a really big fan.
Awesome,
Thank you.
What's your name?
Miles.
Chris.
Nice to meet you.
Hey, man, you ever see one of those?
Whoa!
Oh, you gotta touch it to get on the lock, Miles.
I'm touching his ring.
All right.
Oh, wow, thank you so much. Boom!
Yeah!
You had it! Yeah, next time on MJ Monday. Feeling good? Dribbling the ball on the court? Feeling good? I'm here on the court of Madison Square Garden. This is unbelievable, and I'm here with Zan Jaffrey, who is the basketball database analyst for the New York Knicks. So I know you really like math, and this is a pretty cool place to work, huh?
It's awesome. I've always been a huge basketball fan growing up, so being in one of the most famous arenas for game nights is pretty cool. I'm actually here for our home games, but our practice facility is in Tarrytown, New York, so that's where I actually spend most of my time.
Cool. How did math influence you to get a career like this?
I was a big math fan growing up. It was actually my favorite subject. It was a big reason why I studied computer science in college. And then once I finished school, I knew that I wanted to apply both my math and computer schools in the NBA. So I'm lucky enough to be here now, so it's a pretty cool job.
So what does that dream job look like?
Basically, everything that happens on the basketball court, you can measure. So what we do is we collect data, we analyze it, and then we give that information to the coaches and management so they can use it for strategies to help the team win.
Cool. What is an example of a strategy that changed the way you look at data?
So one metric that teams use is called effective field goal percentage. What that does is it accounts for the extra value of a three-pointer. So for example, say I take 30 two-point shots and I make half of them, so 15. That means I score 30 points. Say you take 30 three-point shots. To score 30 points, you actually only need to make 10 of them. So while your field goal percentage is lower because you made fewer shots, your effective field goal percentage is actually the same because you scored the same amount of points. So based on that, teams over the last few seasons have really been taking more and more three-pointers, and they've actually broken their own franchise records for both three-pointers made and attempted over that time frame as well.
So is there a stat that helps coaches and players size up their competition?
Yeah, another stat that teams use is points per possession. So what that is total points scored divided by total possessions played. And we use that instead of a more common points per game because some teams play fast, which means they have more opportunities to score. Other teams play slow, means they have fewer opportunities to score, and that makes it hard to judge the differences between those teams. So when we use points per possession, it puts everybody kind of on the same level, and it makes it easier to judge the strengths and weaknesses of each of those teams.
Well, thank you so much.
Nice to meet you.
We're back at NBA headquarters with Kiki. So, I know we met a lot of people who use math in their jobs. So, and math puts the M in STEM. So are all of these career jobs STEM jobs too?
They absolutely are. Every job in the NBA and WNBA is a STEM job, and we all use the 4 C's: critical thinking, creativity, communication, and collaboration. And they're all important to get the job done, and we try to use math behind all of those and make the best decisions for our fans and for our players that we can make.
Well, that concludes our virtual field trip here in New York City. Well, I hope you learned a lot about math and basketball, which I know I have. And on behalf of the Junior MBA and the MBA in Discovery Education Math Textbook, thanks for watching, and bye.